Mexicans protest against growing number of femicides. Fighting between Ethiopian government forces and Tigray rebels sends thousands of refugees over the border into Sudan. And former UN envoy to Libya optimistic for peace in the North African country as peace talks enter sixth day. Hello and welcome to TeleSUR. I'm Doris Polo in Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the South. Demonstrators and police have clashed in Mexico City during a protest against the growing number of femicides in the country. Citizens protested outside the Attorney General's office in the capital. Protesters in Mexico City also burned documents, including some related to domestic violence cases in which the perpetrators were not arrested. This comes after a heavy police crackdown on protesters in Cancun who had rallied following the murder of a 20-year-old woman in the tourist area. According to the UN, around 10 women are murdered every day in Mexico. Well, Mexico City authorities on Friday announced that they will close bars and limit the number of clients in restaurants for 2 weeks after the number of people hospitalized for COVID-19 rose to levels not seen since August. The city closed nightclubs and bars in the spring but later allowed some to reopen. However, Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum pointed out that many establishments had not enforced sanitary and social distance measures and had become sites of very high transmission. The city of almost 9 million inhabitants has never been under a strict lockdown, but businesses, museums, parks and shopping malls have been allowed to operate under restrictions for months. Moving on Friday, a Peruvian judge barred former President Martin Vizcarra from leaving the country for 18 months while prosecutors investigate the bribery allegations that Congress used to oust him, plunging the nation into a political crisis. Judge Maria de los Angeles Alvarez agreed with prosecutors that Vizcarra could present a flight risk given the seriousness of the accusations, though he will still be allowed to move freely within the country until the order expires. Prosecutors are investigating whether Vizcarra received over $630,000 US while serving as governor of a small province in southern Peru in exchange for 2 construction projects.
We resolve in accordance with Articles 253, 295, 20, and 52 of the Code of Criminal Procedure to declare founded the request presented by the 3rd Deputy, the special team of the Supra-Provincial Corporate Prosecutor's Office specialized in crimes of corruption of public officials, and to order that the accused Martin Alberto Vizcarra Cornejo be prevented from leaving the country. 2, to specify that the measure will have a duration of 18 months imposed from the day of November 13, 2020 and will expire on May 12, 2022.
Tropical storm Iota, the 30th named storm of this year's Atlantic hurricane season, has formed and could follow Eta's deadly path in Central America this weekend. Hurricane experts were closely watching the Caribbean, where tropical storm Iota formed on Friday afternoon. Forecasters warned that Iota could power up quickly to major hurricane strength as it approaches Central America late on Sunday or Monday, and it could wreak more havoc in a region where people are still grappling with the aftermath of Eta. The National Hurricane Center in Miami said Iota could bring dangerous winds, storm surges, and as much as 30 inches of rainfall to northern Nicaragua and Honduras. The presidents of Honduras, Nicaragua, and Guatemala are calling for international support and funds from the Central American Bank for economic integration to deal with the second major hurricane in Central America. Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez met with Nicaragua's President Daniel Ortega in Managua and Guatemala's President Alejandro Giammattei in Guatemala City to organize the joint response.
The famous green funds on the climate have been difficult to access for Honduras in the necessary proportion. So our proposal, and I just told President Ortega, is that together we build this route to serve the entire region.
On top of this pandemic, we have been hit by another pandemic, which is that of natural disasters caused by damage to the environment.
The tragedy that we have been experiencing and the prospect that next week we will have another tropical depression hitting us most likely from Tuesday forces us to rethink what we have to do as governments in the prevention and control of natural disasters.
Now, the first cruise to resume sailing in the Caribbean has reported several possible coronavirus cases aboard. The Sea Dream Yacht Club cruise was the first to return to the Caribbean since the COVID-19 pandemic shut down operations in March. It was meant to demonstrate that increased safety protocols, including regular testing aboard the ship, could allow cruise voyages to take place during the pandemic. Instead, one passenger fell ill on Wednesday, forcing the ship to return to Barbados, where all 53 passengers and 66 crew were tested. So far, a total of 7 passengers have been confirmed to have the virus, according to 2 ship passengers on the ship. We'll take a short break now. Join us in a few. Welcome back to From the South. Chilean police have once again violently repressed indigenous, social and trade union movements rallying in the capital's Dignity Square in Santiago, demanding the release of political prisoners and for the government to address their economic concerns. Police sought to prevent health sector workers from rallying in the square on a second day of a 48-hour national strike. They protested the government's refusal to address demands including the payment of overdue salaries and exceptional financial assistance. Meanwhile, indigenous movements are commemorating 2 years since the assassination of Mapuche leader Camilo Catrillanca and demanding justice for his family and community. Thousands of supporters of the Democratic Republic of Congo's ruling party, the Union for Democracy and Social Progress, have taken to the streets of the capital, Kinshasa, to express their support for President Felix Tshisekedi's plan to withdraw from the alliance with former President Joseph Kabila's Front for the Congo party. The supporters who attempted to burn an effigy of Kabila accused the former president of undermining President Tshisekedi. On the 2nd of November, Tshisekedi announced plans to reconfigure the political alliance that propelled him to power in December 2018.
We are marching to support the head of state during the national consultations so that our country can change and move forward for the good of the people.
The president must make decisions in favor of the population. This is why for us, this is a moment to tell him that we are behind him, we support him, and we warn all those who want to put the interests of the population aside.
The president of Guinea, Alpha Condé, has denied accusations that the recent arrests of several opposition leaders and activists who opposed his decision to run for a 3rd term were politically motivated.
Anyone, whether minister, prime minister, president, or ordinary citizen who violates the law must answer to justice. That's all. There's no witch hunt in Guinea. No one is targeted except people who are accused of having ordered it because we have arrested people. It's up to the court to decide.
Staying in Africa, Ethiopian refugees have entered Sudan's Geda Reef state, fleeing the fighting in the northern Tigray region and reporting artillery bombardments and airstrikes.
They are abusing us. We came with 5 to 6 children on our backs. The children don't have anything to drink and eat. All of us are suffering. We don't have clothes of our own. What clothes we have worn were borrowed from neighbors. We want the Tigray and the government to look after us.
This is the reason why all these people have left their villages, left everyone with nothing. All these people do not even have money to buy food. The banks are closed. If I asked anyone, none of them has the price of a bread loaf because the banks have closed for a long time. Even our people in Sudan could not help us because the bank is closed and there is no phone network. The people from Tigray are tired.
Meanwhile, Ethiopia's Tigray rebels have fired rockets at 2 airports in the neighboring Amara region as a conflict threatens to spread into other parts of the country. The rebels in a statement said such strikes will continue unless the attacks against us stop. The federal government confirmed that the airports in Gondar and Bahirdar were damaged in the strikes late Friday. The fighting that erupted in the northern Tigray region on November 4th has reportedly killed hundreds on both sides of the conflict and sent over 17,000 refugees fleeing into neighboring Sudan.
As we said before, the Tigray Defense Force, in order to thwart the invasion being committed, is undertaking proportional measures. Based on this, yesterday evening, we have inflicted heavy damage on the military components of the Gondar and Bahar airports.
Infrastructure.
We'll take one last break. Don't go anywhere. UN Special Envoy for Libya, Ghasani Salami, is hopeful that the latest round of talks between Khalifa Haftar's Libyan National Army and the Tripoli-based Government of National Accord will put an end to a decade of violence in the North African country. Salami's comments come a few days after the two sides agreed to appoint an interim government to organize the holding of elections slated for the 24th of December 2021. Libya plunged into violence after a 2011 NATO-backed uprising toppled and killed President Muammar Gaddafi.
I am very hopeful. I'm very optimistic. It will take time. You will have the status quo party who will try to disrupt it. You will have probably foreign countries unhappy with it. But I have never been as optimistic as I am today for the implementation of the Berlin Conference conclusions. You need a number of conditions so that the elections are reasonably representative of the will of the people. And I believe that this can be done in the next 6 or 7 months, yes.
Land and air borders between Tunisia and Libya have reopened after a 7-month border closure was lifted due to coronavirus restrictions. The closure at the end of March had a severe impact on trade between the two countries and left Libyans and Tunisians stranded on either side of the border. Many Tunisians travel to Libya for work, while Libyans regularly go to Tunisia for medical treatment.
Along the reopening, a common Tunisian-Libyan protocol was put in place following a meeting in Tunis on the 21st of October 2020. The protocol was sent in order for Tunisians and Libyans to use it when they enter or exit. To cross, the passengers should have a negative PCR test and has to quarantine for 10 days.
We will be prioritizing the sick and the ones who have special cases. There is a special protocol that will be followed, and protective measures will be taken, such as wearing masks and social distancing.
Lebanon has announced a new 2-week lockdown after recording a surge in coronavirus infections. Under the new lockdown, people have been called to stay at home during the day unless they have been granted an exception. Only cars with certain number plates will be allowed on the roads for specific days. The first lockdown was imposed in March and was gradually lifted as summer arrived. The country has recorded more than 100,000 COVID-19 cases and almost 800 people have died from the virus.
We were deployed since this morning along the seaside road near the Corniche, and we put the stripes. There was a large number of people who began to gather in the morning, and we asked them to leave, as the Corniche is supposed to be closed.
Pakistan's government has accused the Indian military of killing civilians living along the line of control in the Indian-controlled Kashmir territory.
Unfortunately, the Indians have again resorted to targeting innocent civilians living in Azad Jammu and Kashmir. They had an incident a couple of days back inside India. They took some casualties, and as usual, they have again tried to externalize their internal problems. They have escalated on the line of control. We have given them a very befitting reply. There have been massive losses on Indian side in men and material. But the most unfortunate part is that Indians continue to target civilian population.
Pakistan is presenting this dossier to the UN, OIC, P5 countries, and others. We expect the international community to play its role for peace and stability in the region by A, compelling India to immediately halt its state sponsorship of terrorism in Pakistan, B, bring to justice all those involved in financing and supporting terrorism inside Pakistan according to relevant domestic and international laws.
India is celebrating one of the most important holidays, Diwali, the Festival of Light, amid concerns over the COVID-19 pandemic. Starting Saturday, citizens in New Delhi offered prayers at temples and lit lamps as part of the tradition. Hundreds of millions of Indians and Hindus, Sikhs and Jains across the world celebrate Diwali. The festival symbolizes new beginnings and the triumph of good over evil and light over darkness. Festivities usually last for 5 days and include gathering with family members, visiting temples and sharing food, which are restricted this year over health concerns.
I think everybody in their mind, they are scared about coronavirus, but at the same time they are kind of adjusting to the new normal, maintaining social distancing, sanitizing their hand, and to be sane, you have to get the life goes on. Diwali being Diwali, you will celebrate it with family, and with all the precaution, things will be, will fall in place.
Usually on Diwali, there is a huge crowd at this temple. This year it's nothing, almost empty. Our businesses have also been affected badly. We hardly sold any flowers this year. We've been hit quite bad.
Meanwhile, the capital, New Delhi, has banned typical firecrackers due to sky-high pollution levels. The city has been enveloped in thick smog and has banned the use of fireworks, a key element of the festivities. Families and groups of friends usually set off firecrackers to celebrate Diwali and gather to watch fireworks. The country is currently reeling from the double impact of the coronavirus and severe air pollution. About 100 ancient coffins have been discovered in Egypt. Around 40 gilded statues were also discovered in a vast necropolis south of Cairo. Egypt's Tourism and Antiquities Minister Khalid El-Anani said that the discovered items date back to the Ptolemaic dynasty that ruled Egypt some 2,500 years ago. The artifacts are said to be transferred to at least 3 Cairo museums, including the Grand Egyptian Museum being built near the famed Giza pyramids.
Today, we are announcing the discovery of more than 100 sealed, colored, intact human coffins, all coming from the area called the Bubastion, only hundreds of meters away from here, and more than 40 funerary masks and the statues and canopic jars and this wonderful wooden private statue.
On that note, we've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And feel free to join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and do not forget Instagram. For TeleSUR English, I am Doris Polo. Thank you so much for watching.